right. Good afternoon, everyone. I will call the meeting to order. We do have two board members not able to be here today, Stacy and Charles, but 3 is a quorum, so we can move business along. And then Matt is going to be a little late, so
Yep.
we can get going. So first of all, the agenda. Is there any additions or changes or questions? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, agenda approved. Then we have minutes from March. Any comments or questions? Chance to review those?
No, my eyes are fine.
If not, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I forgot Jim last time, so Jim, public comment.
No, it's okay. I'll pass this.
Okay, good. All right, on to action items. So donation policy revision 5.1. Is Jody, are you walking through?
Yep, I can walk you through that,
Okay.
absolutely. So this policy wasn't essentially due up for revision yet on our normal policy routine, but we saw a need to add something in this policy to address the incentives, particularly like the summer reading and winter reading program prize books and other gift cards that we give out as part of that those experiences. And so we wanted to have some language built into this, particularly related to funding that we receive from our library foundation and our friends groups. So not directly related to any levy funding from the county, obviously. The county has a policy such that like an incentive threshold is $5. And what we're seeing when we are going to purchase incentive books, even through our low cost, high quality vendors like Scholastic, particularly teen books, you can't find anything of good quality under $5. So what we're trying to do is build something into this policy that would help your our group here, your group here, support the needs that we have to support the programs and our mission for literacy and being able to provide good quality materials. Does that give you enough background as to the addition that we're proposing?
Right.
So if it's something under $5, we wouldn't need to bring it to you all for approval, but if it's, as you'll see in the next action item, if it's summer reading program prize books, then on an annual basis, we would come to the library board and ask for your approval that we could spend up to, say, $25 an item if needed.
So I feel like I remember going through this before and making the same comment. But $5, that's because of the county oversight? Because, yeah, it just seems like you should have more discretion than anything over $5, but it is what it is.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Who do I talk to at the county?
In Wasika, it's $2.
Oh.
What's that?
In Wasika, it's $2. So
Oh my
imagine
goodness.
the quality prizes the kids in Wasika get.
So it's the Perkins Wishboat, right?
Yes.
Wow.
And with our philosophy really of rewarding reading with reading, we want to incentivize and motivate our young patrons and adult patrons during winter reads to be able to have a quality, quality prize, a quality book that they're going to walk away with to help continue to support that lifelong reading. So.
You have to ask every year. We did do this.
So,
we approved it last year too.
right, but the donation, that's why we're setting this language in motion in the policy. But then yes, on an annual basis, we would still need to come back and ask for your support and approval to move forward.
Okay, seems reasonable to me. Are there any other questions? Jody? So I make a motion that we approve the board policy with the addition on library incentives or prizes.
Second.
Move that we approve the donation policy revision.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. So then we have one.
So then we have one before you here. And the
What do you
next
know?
action item. Because our youth services librarians are very anxious to start purchasing for the summer reading program, for those prizes. So yes, so we bring this request to you this evening.
So do you still look them over, or they? Because I'm just thinking of the policy, if it's under, you can approve up to $5. but
Correct. Yep.
This is just a one-time thing, so they won't, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, what does everybody think? Do we have a motion to approve this?
Oh, I move that we approve the youth services summer reading program incentive for the amount stated up to $25.
Thank you, Dan. I will second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. We can get to work.
Thank you.
So this is something for DB new here that we do every year, look over the state report before it is submitted, which is a lot to go over and put together. So is there anything you want to highlight for us this year, Jody, or?
Sure, I have just a few things, and just,
Okay.
yeah, to give a little very brief background, this is something that Minnesota Public Libraries are required to file on an annual basis to the Minnesota Department of Education, and then it's in turn, it's submitted to the Institute of Museum and Library Services for the public service, or public libraries in the US survey. So if you were to go on Minnesota Department of Ed, you could find our state report data that goes back to 2015 currently, so that's all live data that you can view on their website. So yes, this is our 2023 draft that we have brought to you this evening, and a few things to highlight. I just have to find my right notes here. I do just want to say a quick thanks to quite a few people that helped contribute to this. We have a team that really helps to compile this. Bob Lincoln and Patrick Jones, Kevin Spencer, and Paul Erickson. We also have our tech associates Scott Davis and Catherine Bauer, our library cataloger Lisa Gearman, our operations supervisors Beth Chiaro and Jake Manning, Minlink guru Amy Polin, and our finance accountant Diane Rugland from the county, and then of course our admin assistant Susan Blotz compiles all of this into the online software platform and gets it all rolling for us. So a lot of different people contribute to this. Some highlights, of course, was that our circulation topped nearly 1.4 million this year in 2023. So that was very exciting. Our program attendance went up significantly, as did our room reservations. As we can attest to, as we're here in Chanhassen and the rooms are always busy, very full reservations. Another piece that I wanted to note was there was a 26% increase in registered users across the system this year, and there's really several factors that contribute to that. As I looked at numbers going back to 2019, we really have started to fully return to pre-pandemic patterns in terms of registrations. We certainly have an increase in digital users, as we can attest to with our Libby app and the activity that we see there, and the online library card requests have just skyrocketed. We've been busy launching our virtual library card program, which is fully implemented in Waconia, and we're starting to roll that out further. So that attributes alone to over 2,500 registrations. There's been an increase, as I mentioned already, in in-person program attendance. And really as a whole, I think our management and leadership team have been really striving to remove as many barriers to be able, as we are able to be able to get cards in the hands of folks, and to get, to help them remain active as library users. And, another piece too, we have not purged users. We usually are on a routine of doing that, but what we opted instead was to roll out kind of re-welcome emails, so people that hadn't been in or had been inactive, would get that reminder, hey, you still have a library card, keep using us. So lots of things have played into that, but that was really exciting to see as well. So those are really the really big, broad brushstroke highlights. I certainly will take or try to address any questions you may have. I do want to note, if you see a 0 or a -1, it just means that those stats were not collected in those areas. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just there weren't stats collected in that. So any questions that I can try to answer?
I noticed there were fewer computers per staff member somewhere in here. I read that. Fewer computers that were being from when you compare one year to the last. Significant.
And there was, I know specifically as we were digging through, and that was a question that came up related to, I think, Chanhassen, and what we were looking at, and I'm looking at Bob, is there were some laptops that were repurposed. So the numbers shifted a bit, so they repurposed because they were originally for public, potentially, and then as we moved through the pandemic, then they shifted to staff use, and then they were either phased out or repurposed again. So I think that's why we see that shift in numbers in some cases.
So the count, if you were to walk around the library right now, the count is 21 public PCs. The count a year ago was 21 public PCs, but we had other PCs that were public for classes and for different things, that they weren't really in a station located in the library for a patron just to walk up for. It would be for a class in the Wilder room or a class that was being taught by staff. Does that make sense? So our number from last year, the only difference in our numbers from last year to this year in the public library, there's two things. One is we removed one PC in the teen area and made a larger monitor docking station. So we just kind of moved that around. And then another factor in this is that with our catalog stations, which used to be PCs, so they used to be counted as PCs, anybody can walk up and search for a book. We now have a VDI set up, so there's a WISE terminal on each of those catalog stations rather than a PC. So it's connected to the internet. It's an internet computer, but it's a different type, pretty much altogether, and they're locked down. In catalogs now, when you go up and you do a search, you can only go into our carverlib.org domain, so all of our library web pages, you can't really go beyond that. Like with the other stations previously at Public PC, it was very easy to get out of the catalog and go do a search on Google or whatever. But they're technically PCs. I mean,
WISE terminals, right? So that.
To clarify for what a WISE terminal is, because I'm looking at some looks here, a WISE terminal is about this big, and it's really just a modem into a virtual computer that's in our servers. We apply what's called an image. That image can either enhance or restrict, and right now with our catalog computers, we have it really tightened down to just allow the cataloging. Just want to make sure it's very clear about how we choose to use the software. The actual piece of hardware, the WISE, is much more economical. We don't have to worry about updates and security because it's all applied through what's called VDI, Virtual Desktop Environment. So just to clarify that.
Did that change just this last year?
this
Yes.
past year, yes, it was a
Okay.
Dalkey grant in 2023.
Okay.
And it was approved and installed, I want to say November, if I'm not mistaken, so October, November? I'm not sure. It's probably in our slideshow.
It's quite possible.
Well, thank
Just a
you,
teaser.
Bob.
Other questions?
So what does the Department of Education do with this? Do you know?
Well, I remember last year you said there isn't any feedback
Yeah.
when we asked that.
Right,
question.
but it does go, I mean, it ultimately lands in the IMLS survey for the whole public libraries. So they're able to pull in other methods of surveying or other methods of evaluation they can pull from this data, certainly.
There was an increase in funding from the legislature, so I'm sure it could be used to
Yep.
back up those numbers as well.
Justify. No, well, it's very interesting
Oh,
data.
it was. You know, it's such a nice, oh, I remember the first time, I suppose it was almost 5 years ago, the first report I read like this. And it's such a nice overview of the size of buildings and people served. In fact, thank goodness you were here about because AMP, because they need help too. What the kinds of services and the figures for circulation. Oh my goodness.
Right, it's really going on.
We're getting there in time.
I would say occasionally, I don't know if it's every year, but at the MLA conference, there's often a session that directly applies, or I've seen it at some of our other library conferences that will specifically, it'll be Minnesota Department of Ed that kind of reports out or just goes through this whole, walks through this whole process.
Does that become part of the benchmark? The PLA benchmark?
Yes.
Okay. So another evaluation tool.
Right, exactly. Thank you. Yep.
How else would Chaska know they need a bigger one?
By walking into it.
I thought that was shoehorning into it.
So if there are no additional questions at this point, we need to have a motion to approve this before you send it on, right?
Right, and then if you all approve it, then we would, then afterwards, we would get your signature on,
okay.
on it with me, so.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, any additional questions, board members? If not, we have a motion.
Okay, I move that we accept the state report.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So next we have number 6, collection and spend totals.
Yeah, when Heather and Heather presented, there were a couple of questions from Commissioner Ruderman about the collection, so I asked the tech team to pull some numbers together, and Scott did that for us. So in this document, the first just shows, I showed what the circulation was last time. This just shows what is in the collection. So 43% is books, etc. Teen media is so low because we really don't buy it anymore. We used to buy some CDs and a teen media and some audiobooks. We just don't buy those. That's why it's minuscule. So that's just kind of what's left. That's not a live collection. Then the second question was about STEM materials, and we got 2 numbers here. The first shows about 1/3, just over a little 1/3 of our total nonfiction collection. Adult and juvenile and teen is STEM materials. And then of our total physical collection, it's only 9%. The 2 things I thought were interesting here were that the STEM total for nonfiction is 33.83. If you turn over and you look at the amount of juvenile nonfiction, it's 33.29. So it almost equals that. And then in juvenile easy nonfiction, you see it's over 50% of what we have. So those are our youngest readers who are reading nonfiction. Over half the materials are STEM materials. So I think what I want to do with this is take this information to the collection team, look at where we are and see if there's some areas. We've already done our budget this year, so we can configure it a little bit differently and spend a little bit more money in juvenile nonfiction and a little bit more money in adult nonfiction to increase those totals.
Do you get any sense for what those percentages might look like from our peer libraries?
I wanted to get this number first, and then I'm going to go to the collection team, although they're a little bit engaged in lots of stuff about Libby at the moment. Yep. So once we've solved some of those problems, I'll go back and ask them, see if they can give me numbers so we can see what we're up against. Yep.
Is there any benchmarking that would be
No,
like nationally,
when I ask the
statewide?
other NELSA libraries, we'll know. But as far as I know, there's no national benchmarking, even defining what a STEM item is.
Yeah. Fun.
But like with our diversity audit, we have to start by measuring what we do, and then we'll find people to compare us to and see if we can improve.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick.
Yep.
All right, we have guests here. Bob Lincoln and, I forgot your name.
Kate Hull.
Kate, yeah, I knew that. Give us an update on technology.
Sounds great. I just want to say hi. Bob, it's nice to see you all. I joking, nice to see you all, something I say a lot because I'm really struggling with my eyes. I'm not just wearing sunglasses to be cool, just wanted to share that with you. So, and Kate and I are going to talk through kind of some updates that have happened over the last year. So a couple of these things have been on a presentation that we did with you in November, I believe it was. But there's a lot of new stuff on here and some successes, mostly successes for this year. And we're going to talk about three things: system accomplishments, successes, projects that are in process right now, and things that are on the horizon.
So far we've had system accomplishments of online patron registration form, a Symphony production upgrade to 4.1.0, and Symphony test upgrade to also 4.1.0. Really, this just means we're taking the main software and we're bringing it up to the next level that's available, giving us more security, any of those things, more benefits. Also, we had enterprise production upgrade to 5.2.0 and enterprise test upgrade to 5.2.0. All upgrades really just encompass improvements. We also have web services upgrade to 6.4.0, as well as Blue Cloud Central upgrade to 23.07.00.
And a part of our contract, just so you know, is that we are offered free upgrades. We just have to schedule them. And for us to do the reshare, which is the min link, which I'll talk about shortly, but the min link upgrade to the new vendor, reshare, it's Index Data, is the company name, and reshare is their platform. We had to upgrade many of these systems to be compatible with their system. So their technology is so up to date that, and we weren't out of date at all, but just to be prepared for the min link upgrade. So
can I just have you talk in plain English?
I'm sorry. So, okay.
I mean, I know what CERC is for the system.
Okay, sorry,
I have
sorry.
no idea what all these other systems
Okay, so these are
What's Symphony?
all these things are softwares that make the library run. Okay? So Symphony is our circulation software.
Okay, that's circulation.
Yep. And then all of our authentication goes through Symphony. And authentication is when you put in your library card and your PIN, or you put in an email and a password, that's authentication. You're verifying who you are.
Okay.
And so everything goes through Symphony. The enterprise parts are our web catalog, but it's so much more than just the catalogs that you see in the library. Enterprise on the back end does a whole bunch of stuff and communicates with Symphony seamlessly. And then we have the test sites for that. And the test sites are so that we can test things before we go live with, oops, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry, I'm having a great eye day. But the test site software is just, so we have Symphony. We use Symphony all day, every day in the library. We have a Symphony test site so that Scott and Catherine and I can put things that we're testing and doing new, like say the online patron registration cards, so people can online from our website and get registered. And that adds an account when they register. We tested that on the test site first, so Symphony test. And so the test site's totally different than the Symphony because we're active. We've got 75 staff using it all the time. Patrons doing stuff all the time with that. And so you don't want to affect that until you've, I'd just say, practiced on like a test site. It's like a sandbox where you play for a little while.
No, I understand what the
Okay.
I just hadn't seen these names before like this.
Oh, gotcha,
That's why I was
gotcha.
trying to,
We know Susan, we're very.
Okay. And the web services one on that page is the one that we really needed to upgrade for the MinLink, the new vendor with MinLink.
yeah, so using words like MinLink or circulation or things like that, I think it's more meaningful to us than the names of the,
Okay.
just
Apps.
some feedback.
Gotcha. No, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. A couple other accomplishments that we've been working on since I believe last July. Syndetics Unbound, and this has to do with the pictures that you see in the catalog, and it also has to do with many of the descriptions and like other things in the catalog. We also have our collection team who's putting together these lists every month, and then we update these lists that are featured in the, these are called a lot of different things, book rivers, carousels, Syndetics Unbound, book widgets, sorry, that's a mouthful. But the collection team is putting together the list, and then we put them on the website for patrons to see. So that's a widget that we use to put those on. I attended Kasugi with Beth Chiro from Chanhassen, and that was in Utah this year, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. And I have a new motivation. I've taken 4 classes in the last week. I've taken about 30 classes in the last month, and it's just great. And I'll share with you sometime in the future when we get a working model, but the conference itself was great. Beth and I presented on the online patron registration form. So we set this up and worked with the core team over a period of many months and tested it, and we got it the way we like it. So a patron can, on our catalog or on our webpage, click on a link, register, and when they hit submit, that automatically creates an account they can use that minute. They get a temporary number, they get a card in a few days, but they can use that temporary number as long as they need to until they get their card. And that's something we presented with a couple other teams at Kasugi. It was really awesome. A couple physical things, new monitors in 5 out of the 6 branches. The 6th branch will have new monitors this year. That will be Waconia in 2024. We will be getting all new Ingenico credit card terminals at the service desk, or we already have. This is already working. And so that's a brand new setup for that. Any questions so far? It's technology. Nobody ever asks questions, right? Do you want to start this and then I'll...
Sure. So we have some projects that are in progress. We have Value Find Reshare, which is the new MinLink. Our hope to go live is April 30th. So this month alone, there are a lot of projects that are kind of coming to a head. It's exciting but overwhelming at the same time. Also coming up very early next month is the new RFID solution from Envisionware. We've gotten some hardware being shipped in already, so we're getting very excited to roll out the new Envision RFID. This replaces the troublesome Biblioteca software hardware that we've been working with. And then TCP Humanities software, that's in Q2. And what that is it's a scheduling software. Our library branch managers and supervisors spend hours working in a spreadsheet. It's just not conducive or helpful. This is going to save them a lot of time, a lot of effort, and improve their work life, so we hope. But it is actually a really neat software. I'm super excited to see it go rolling out.
And TCP, just so you know, I learned this at the last library board meeting. We want to make sure you know what the acronyms are. TCP stands for Time Clock Plus, and that is the name of the company that has the humanities software, which we have the contract. I've already completed the contract. It's in the portal. We're waiting for the process to be approved through the contracts portal. I want to talk a little, go ahead.
I was going to say, this isn't new to the county, by the way. This software is currently used in our Public Works Forum, as well as in our Sheriff's Department. So it's not new to the county, just new to us.
I want to share a little bit more about the Envisionware project, because this is a project that's been in the works for about a year, and it has to do with our Self-checks, we're getting all new self-checks, and they will be self-contained on the countertop in most of the sites, and Chanhassen will have a kiosk, which is a standalone model, so it's a big kiosk that has everything included in it. And so the self-checks are all going to be brand new. All of the staff pads, so they have RFID pads, radio frequency identification pads on their workstation, and you set a book on there with a little tag in it, and the pad can read that radio frequency from that tag and unsecure it with the system. So we're getting 26 staff workstations, all brand new, and then we're getting a new 13 self-checks and then a new gate here in Chanhassen. So when we say it's a big project, it's a huge project that involves every staff workstation and every self-check, every branch. So we've been working on it for a long time, and we're excited to get it going. So a couple other things. We're working on upgrading our print release stations and PC reservation stations. What that means is where you print in the libraries is connected to a computer, a server, and that server manages the prints, the printing. We're upgrading to a Windows 10, and we're moving to a new printing software. So on your phone, you can download an app to print from, but you don't even need to do that. From anywhere in the world, you can print to this. Currently will be installed in 4 libraries, and by the end of the year, it'll be in all 6 libraries. So whether you're on a laptop or you're at our computers here, the 21 in Chanhassen, or if you're out and about with your phone, you can print to one of the 4 branches that will have it available in. And I've attended a training today. We had a consulting call with IT this morning, 5 people in IT and the tech team and a consultant, and that was great. And I went through all of the training materials last night, or maybe 2.5 hours of all of the training materials for staff, all the training materials for the public, and then for the administrations, like our tech team. Just so I could follow along today with a consultant, because sometimes they go really fast. And so we're excited about these. You want to talk about these a little bit?
Sure, but did you hit Pritch and the patron registration?
Yep, we already talked about
Okay, got it. So IT has identified that the libraries have these wide ranges of IP addresses. IP is Internet Protocol, and basically it's just we needed to shrink them down and put them in a more concise form. In the past, they were just kind of tossed in the air and not organized. Now we're organizing them. This affected how our staff systems were connected, how our networking was. IT was very involved with that part. And then also we moved from the city phones to county phones at Waconia and Chan. The remaining libraries will be finished by the end of the year. What that does do is it allows us to do internal calling much more easier. And then we are also not so restricted by what cities want to do. If they tell us we have to change a phone number, we kind of have to change a phone number. Where here we will have a new central number. It'll give us some more flexibility, some more latitude to using our phone system better, more efficient. And then we installed new Cisco internal switches, 14, 2 per each library and 2 in our data center. They're just getting started. They're not 100% done, I believe.
They're building them. They're built
Yep.
in IT. They haven't been deployed yet.
Yep.
And if you don't know what a switch is, you might have seen pictures of them. They're big racks of things that have like 48 plugs in for internet. Those are called switches, but they actually have to be programmed. I thought you just plugged them in and went, but no, you have to program them. And we're going to Cisco. The whole county's on Cisco now. The ones that we have currently for the last 8 years are a different brand and very difficult to configure and program. So we're going, all the guys in IT, the county, are Cisco certified. So we're gonna have Cisco switches and they'll know.
Yeah, if you want to visualize what a switch is, think of how the old-fashioned operators used to connect the lines like that. If you go into a
One
computer
ringy
room-
dingy,
Yep.
two.
And they actually are connected that way, and that's how our computers are connected into the network, is through a switch. This is you.
Great. Any questions for us?
The go live May 10th on the RFID.
Yes.
Is that, how are you going to manage that with, May 10th is like a Friday for the library being open with, didn't you say a new gate and all that?
So-
I mean, how disruptive will that be to customers, I guess is my question.
Okay, great question. Can I explain some of the process before I answer that question?
Sure.
So I've been talking with Jody quite a bit about this and talking with my team about this for a month. I've had multiple calls with the consultants, working with IT. It's actually going to be, sorry, it's a correction, but it's going to be, originally it was May 10th, it's now May 3rd, which is the same day as our all-staff meeting, so there's even another dynamic. To answer your question, we're going to try to minimize that by opening and starting in the libraries that open at 1 o'clock so that the consultants can get set up. We're going to have 2 consultants here for 4 days, and so they can get set up on our network working with our IT and our team. So in those libraries, we won't be affecting patrons. When we do get to Chanhassen, they're going to have all hands on deck, both with our county IT and both Kathy and Craig, who are our consultants for this project, will be in Chanhassen, and one of them will work with getting the staff stations working, and the other person will get the self-checks and the gate. Just so you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's happened before this. We have a VDI, so a virtual desktop image, for the new equipment that we're getting. So we tested this out for months, working in Chanhassen and working with IT to build us it's called an image, and they can push that image out to the PCs using virtual desktop. And we tested that and have that working very, very well. So there's a lot of stuff to it. Our goal is to minimize as much as possible because we're going to be removing equipment and we're going to be installing equipment. And there's going to be some downtime.
Okay.
But we're working on that. I've also shared with Jody today that I'm reaching out to our operations supervisors, which are, they're brilliant and they're hands-on and they're just awesome at their job. And I'm going to ask them to help. I put together kind of a schedule of all of these things that are happening in the next month. And I'm going to ask them to join us at our team meeting on Friday to coordinate and come up with a plan. Because you're right, it's a lot of stuff, and how's it going to happen? How are we going to do this without affecting patrons? We're going to try to set it up so that we have some of the old systems still working, so patrons can use that while we're putting in a new one, and trying to minimize that impact as much as possible.
What's nice is we can have both going at the same time, and so it won't cause any conflict. Also, just to feed off of what Bob was saying, IT will be there. We'll have people spread out to help facilitate it. But that image that we're talking about, we had problems with Biblioteca. And part of our quote or request for quote is we required them to work with our IT to set up an image and prove that it worked. So that's why we're very positive, and we believe that this is just going to go out very, very smooth. I mean, we're always going to have hiccups, but I think
Like you don't want
compared
like the
to
power to go out or something. Here recently.
acts of God, I cannot help. But yes, and so I feel very confident in my IT team. Abe has worked wonders with us and made sure that everything is working right. So our staff will have minimal impact, which means our customers will have very minimal impact.
And to go one step further, just because I like to put icing on the cake, we had a meeting yesterday with IT leadership. So we're going to have a lot of help. And that should speed up that process of transitioning.
Yeah, and when libraries are open 6 or 7 days a week, I mean, you really don't have a lot of options other than to do it.
No, and I don't think the county would let us close. Sir, no, it's just not going to happen.
How's your partnership with District 112 going?
Oh, I'd say it's going pretty well. I've got Google Authentication. We have a virtual library card program going in Waconia, and all students grades 6 through 12 have a virtual library card. And we've reached out recently to 108, which is Central Public Schools in Norwood Young America, and we've been working with District 112, Eastern Carver County Schools. And one of my steps to work on was to get Google authentication, which is a method, you've probably seen it, where you log in with Google. You ever seen those buttons on web pages and phones and stuff? That's called Google authentication, and
Drives me crazy.
right, but that's
Verification.
Yeah.
That's one of the systems that is the system District 112 uses, and we're setting that up with our, that was another reason why I had to upgrade, you know, all those things that had 4.1 and 6.4 and all those, 5.2. We had to upgrade for Google authentication for this process, so.
If there's if we find that there's a catalog overlap that lent itself to have savings, so there wasn't redundancy, if you could just cut me an email, I think that'd be super helpful.
Catalog, you mean like,
Like District 112 has, I don't know, 80 different catalogs, we have 80 different catalogs, and if there's any overlap, there's a chance for us to identify that and only have either the district or us pay for that catalog, or even better yet, have Nelsa pay for it.
right.
If there's an overlap that lends itself to savings in that partnership, it would be helpful to know.
And I think we've,
The databases.
right, I think
Yep.
we've talked about
And
that.
Chris
so.
was working
Awesome.
on a list of
Cool.
that, I believe.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So that's pretty exciting. That's 10,000 more accounts, virtual accounts, and we've learned from the virtual library card is that they come in and get real library cards. We got to set up a program to send them an email that, well, your virtual library card has been discontinued, but check out here's a link to our online registration, and we'll mail you one.
It might make sense when you're bringing on the bulge of the District 112 to also time your next purge, so that you've got the influx, but then you get out the outflux, and then the next year it isn't like burp and then burp. And I don't know, I think the last time you purged was 2020. I don't know if it's in every 5 years, so probably times up just fine. So you get a big net increase, but then you don't have the hangover the next year by purging a bunch out.
So just to keep it more steady.
Yep.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Maybe you could do Crowd College next. Virtual cards for Crowd, maybe.
Yeah, certainly a conversation, especially if it can benefit both parties.
Right.
There are things that we do that could be beneficial, and there are things that you might already have that we'd rather not pay for as well, so.
No sense having the redundancy if we,
Right,
the pay redundancy.
yeah. Yeah, and we want to encourage our students to get into Waconia and like get into the community and engage as well, so could be a good reason. They're already there at Target and
That's right.
all sorts of places anyway, so yeah, may as well hit up the library.
They're not at Chumley's.
Well, thank you.
What was this page?
That's the Syndetics Unbound. So
Okay.
that's the list that the collection team librarians put together, and then they create a list that we add to our
Okay.
enterprise, and that's how it displays.
So when you walk up to a computer catalog, it kind of files through these cute little pictures that allow you to see what cover of the book, you know, judging a book by its
Right,
cover.
right.
This allows people to judge a book by its cover a little easier.
And we have more than 100,000 lists in our collection from this connection to Syndetics Unbound.
Okay.
So you can see it throughout our catalog.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
You bet, thank you.
So, Jody, you're up for the next couple things.
Sure. I feel like every month we keep reporting a little bit further down the road with rollover requests from 2023 to 2024, but we're still waiting on county finance to finalize those. And just as an example, some of that will affect or determine, furniture and upholstery replacement this year, depending upon what we're able to roll over from last year into this year's project fund. So that's just one of those pieces as an example. We're about to now begin the 2025 budget planning process in the next few weeks. So that will amp up into high gear here as well. But otherwise, nothing too major to note in the current budget as we move forward. I know as we rolled through last year, our stock budget or our sub budget became kind of a challenge for us, but so far we're really looking good in that area. But that's also due to our management team really, being careful to monitor that as well. But again, if any questions, I can try to address those.
I don't think so on the budget, yeah, we're just. And then you have your director's report.
I do. So just a couple of notes to highlight from my director's report. I think you all should have received a copy of the 2023 annual report. I believe Susan sent those out with your packets. And I do want to say a huge thank you to Susan Bernstein, who's one of our librarians. She does a lot with our social media in the background. And with our website, but she was integral in creating this report and being patient with me as we worked through that process together. And then an associate librarian, Michelle Myers here, did some editing for us. So it's always, I love kind of looking at, it's fun to see the visual of, our top circulating items, kind of get a picture of that, literally, so.
Our top eBay is a gossip rag. You read that without feeling guilty of buying it first.
And we'll take this with us. We have, I think, all but one of our State of the Library presentations scheduled now, coming up in late April, early May. So we'll take our annual report with us, and each of the branch managers and I will visit each of our main 6 branch communities and present to our city councils with highlights from this past year and what's happening and where we're headed as we move forward.
You get a lot of hits there. Can you tell when this is online? And do you know, over the years, have you noticed that the public reads this?
That's a good question. I'll have to ask Susan if she can pull analytics on that, stats on how many clicks it gets. Yeah.
This inside is very informative. In fact, it's nice, it's a summary for us.
Yeah.
All of that you have listed here for us from all of the good people that came to report to us.
So, and that was really a joint collaboration to pull highlights together. The branch managers work with each of our respective teams to really look at this past year, and they all talk together and submit their highlights for the year. So, which is huge for them to take time to do that. And it's good for me too to kind of have them help capture all of that. Absolutely.
So when did you start?
Officially a year ago, last May.
So I was
8th,
thinking
yeah.
you're coming up to 1 year, so what have you been learning?
That's
So
a
much,
good question.
So much, every day. And still learning. I know I'll be learning for a while, so.
Lifelong learner.
Yes.
But what surprised you the most about the job? What you got?
Put me on the spot. Go
Without
ahead.
using names, of course.
Right. I knew there would be, I think I'm surprised, being in this role, I knew there would be a lot of big picture vision, a lot of budget work, obviously, working more closely with the county administration. I think I'm surprised how much interaction I still get to have with staff across the board, absolutely, and with personnel in some of those conversations. So, yeah, and working through the book challenge last fall, that was a huge learning experience. So definitely
For us all.
for
yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah,
How long ago was that? 6 months?
It was September,
September.
because it was
Seared in our heads.
the meeting, it was in this room in August,
Yeah, that's
the
right.
day before I left on my trip. Yeah, well, that's good to hear, because I do think sometimes when you get into management at a different level, it's, all meetings and, stuff like that, and being with patrons and staff is probably more
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, and I'm glad that at least too, that our administration office is adjacent to at least one of the libraries.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't get me out into all the branches all the time, certainly, but at any, you know, in the afternoon, when I need a break from the spreadsheets, I can walk downstairs and interact with staff and patrons, so that's really good too.
Good.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to branch manager updates. So Patrick, you're always first.
Thank you. So if you want to look at the packet, I'm going to point out 3 pictures. On page 2 are 2 programs that we did in Victoria. Often when I come here, I'm recording a Chanhassen thing, so I always want to make sure that you know we're doing cool stuff in Victoria. The book bingo would have been a lot better if I wouldn't have done it, but that's beside the point. If you want to turn over then to page 4, I think this is interesting, these puzzle swaps and the games and gatherings. The games and gathering programs are continuations of our Dalkey grant, so we were able to build capacity to buy games, so now we're continuing in 2024 to do gaming programs. We started doing, along with the gaming programs, puzzle swaps, and that has kind of led to other libraries doing them and actually putting puzzles in the collection at Waconia and Norwood, or just Waconia, both of those locations. So that's exciting when something starts one place and then grows elsewhere. And then page 8 are some statistics, and I won't spend a lot of time on these. I put these in here because last month when I was here, I showed you what the system did in terms of circulation, how it broke down. And I think it really shows the stark difference between the 2 branches. At Victoria, 71% of the things that go out of Victoria are children's print materials. You add up children's media and teen media, and you're looking at 76%, so 3/4 of the things that walk out of Victoria are kids' stuff, which I just think is interesting. On the Chanhassen cert, I didn't, because again, I don't want to overload you with statistics. Since I've been here, child print continues to go up, adult media continues to go down. And so those are, again, I think trends in all of our libraries. It's just very pronounced at Chanhassen. So those are the 3 things I wanted to share: Victoria programs, games and gatherings, and some statistics. Thank you.
Patrick, are there Rubik's Cubes as part of that games and gathering?
I'd have to check. I don't think so. I know there's chess, but I will check and find out if there's Rubik's Cubes or not.
I asked for a bunch of reasons, but I just love the games and gathering. Is that unique to Carver County, or do other library systems do that?
We branded it that way,
Yeah.
but Linnea, when she was writing the grant, was building a lot of what was going on in other libraries. When I was at Anoka, they started a big gaming program.
Okay. And then the coloring thing at Victoria, is the intention for those when they're colored to bring them to the government center?
Yes, yep. I have a picture of it before it got colored. I think it is just about done. And we only had 3 of them this year. I think last year we had 6. So we chose Victoria because they have those nice big tables. We just didn't have a good space to do it here.
I hosted a tour at the government center today, and that was one of the few things that was, hey, wait a minute, just stop, pause, what is that? And it was the coloring from years prior. It really illuminates that main area that feels like a damn hospital if not up. And so it's cool to bring the library and the government center and the folks that wanted the halls of the government center, employees or otherwise, to get a chance to see that. So, and then I just compliment, I don't know if it's on the next slide or whatever, the murder mystery that was in Chaska. Yeah. I'll shut up.
Wait for my turn.
Good segue for Kevin. Go Kevin.
Yeah, so you can see Matt's lovely smile at the top of mine
Well, that's
as a participant in the murder mystery party, which was super popular, and we're just trying to find ways to make it work and do more of those in our space. As a focus on teen programming, Jessica did a project with celebrating manga. If you don't know, it's kind of a Japanese form of animation. We had a story time led by the Master Gardeners, which was super popular. And then after the stories and songs, they led the kids in planting some actual seeds that they got to take home. And last month, Patrick focused on some of his staff, and I just wanted to focus on our library assistants and how amazing they are, especially since we've been down 2 people, and they've been really having to jump in and help fill some spaces that were empty at the time. So big thank you to them. And then I put the solar eclipse stuff in there, and the glasses, which were completely useless for us.
Hold on to them until 2044, because that's.
Right,
There you go.
Yes.
I really appreciate the partnership, because the theater group came in, and the speech team came in, the school and community, and we just kind of stumbled upon it, and my daughter has been talking about it since.
And most of those kids asked to volunteer in further and extra things in the
What a
library too.
great partnership.
Yeah.
Great.
So when are you gonna have an adult murder mystery?
When we can get our adult team to create one that will interest adults, I guess. I used to have a friend who had a mobile, like an escape room sort of a thing, but she sold it to a company in New Jersey, unfortunately. Otherwise, that would have been in use constantly in Chaska.
That's awesome.
Paul?
Thank you. Just kind of a segue from what Kevin was saying, really I think at all the branches, pretty much there have been special story times, we call them super story times, that are celebrating spring type of things with master gardeners and planting seeds, and then with staff from Land and Water Management, the county department, coming out and doing Earth Day story time. So a lot of good fun and energy there, and a lot of hands-on things for the kids, which is of course great learning. Waconia, we had, as I mentioned in the report, but it's happened now, is we were at the Chamber of Commerce / high school career day on Friday, and it was, I think, sponsored in many ways by Crown College. They had done a lot with the chamber on this. So we interacted at our table with 98 students in the space of 2.5 hours. It's pretty compressed. A lot of just very rewarding, and good interactions with the students. And then Saturday, at the same location, we actually got moved from the gymnasium area where the spread was out into the commons area, and so we interacted with a lot more because everybody had to walk by us, So we had our spinning wheel and trivia game, but that really just pulls people in, gives us a chance to talk with them about services for what happens to be their demographic, whether it's kids, young families, seniors, all that kind of stuff. So hugely rewarding. Watertown, and I'll report more on this next month, but and I mentioned in the written report, is the Commission on Aging had put out into the community a survey, of which is actively being responded to right now, will through the month. And at the Commission on Aging meeting this past week, they brought some early comments and things that were coming in. And so a lot of good comments about the library. Just one, for example, we use the library weekly, and so thankful to have that available. Always something new at our library. Not everything was rosy. Jody and I, as we were talking this afternoon, there were a couple comments that about collection-related things that makes us think that our book challenge from a year ago, those issues don't go away. We may walk through that particular challenge at that time, but there are certainly some opinions out in the community about our collection. So we'll just keep on moving forward. Watertown has a book sale this month, Friends of the Library. Then out at Norwood Young America, and I'll talk more about this next month, but we're getting close to the soft rollout for our Prescription to Read initiative. Yes, Kevin, I owe you an email with some details about that. We are also working with the Chamber of Commerce and the planning group for the Artisan Spring Festival out on Lewis Avenue, Main Street, right outside the library. So that'll be Saturday, June 1st. Going to have picture perfect weather day that day. That's already on order. And the fun news on that one also, in spite of my lighthearted comment about the weather, and that is that again this year through MELSA, Twin Cities Public Television had sent out a feeler to library systems offering to come out with their costume character. You may remember this from last summer, that it was at Watertown and Chaska. The year before we hosted them at Waconia. This year, as we surveyed around our branches, it's going to work out for one of the costume characters from TPT Superheroes to come out on the day of the Springfest Artisan Fair at the Norwood Young America branch. So we'll have some special activities going on inside the library that day. There'll be stuff going on out on Lewis Avenue. Friends of the library will have a book sale going on out on the sidewalk, and inside the library we host a cold show. So if that ain't enough, I don't know what would be. It's going to just be an incredible day. And so lots of good things. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt?
I love the prescription RX, and if I can offer this as a parallel, it might take me a minute. There's something called Read RX, where a doctor writes a prescription to read, and there's something called Park RX, where doctors are writing get out into nature and helping mental health and community connection and all the other things. I've done this a number of times, but I did it most recently on Tuesday. I articulated a vision for our parks, the one like this. What would it look like if we generated 5 million visits in our parks by 2050? What would it look like if we generated 5 million visits to our parks by 2050? And anybody want to venture to guess how many visits we get to our parks on an annual basis now? About 1.4 million visits. Does that sound like a familiar number? Our circulation this year was 1.4 million. So what would it look like if we had this vision of by 2050, we looked at what it would look like to have 5 million circulation by 2050. So the parks numbers works like this. It's about 2 visits per resident per month. Gets us to about 70% of that number. And then the other 30% is friends, family, visitors, tourists, etc. And so I venture to guess the 1.4 million circulation number, 70% of that total is probably people that come from Carver County. The balance is probably bleed over from Scott County, Hennepin County, McLeod County, visitors, guests, etc. And so it was interesting when you said prescription, reading prescription, and I just wanted to share that parallel because I had the 5 million by 2050, and you know, you're getting up to speed on all the financial stuff in your role. It's not too far before we're talking about our 2050 comprehensive plan as it relates to the physical infrastructure and the social infrastructure of our county. And so I'm lighting a few fires to like think about it, and I think you guys are way ahead of others in thinking about those things. I brought up Rubik's Cubes because I'm interested in it, but it's also the brain connections and on the older population to try and fend off dementia, loneliness, and all the things in the younger population. There's a guy at Middle School East that does, during their win time, what I need for students. He's doing a Rubik's Cube class. So coincidentally enough, it just happened, I met with him today. I was out in the hall holding a Rubik's Cube. 5 kids are like, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm here to learn how to do a Rubik's Cube. And so this guy in 15 minutes showed me how to do it, the math and the science and the algorithm behind there. And so I'm trying to kind of research that independently to see if there's a path for us, not just in our libraries, this library, but also MELSA, if we had the public health dollars to do the Rubik's Cube and get them in the hands of people, what that might look like. Parallel path, I know that Jody is passionate about this. What does it look like if we were to have a community kitchen in our future library in Chaska? And we delayed what that looks like. And so kind of to prepare my mind, I invited my buddy that used to be the executive chef at the Arboretum, and he did a dads and kids cooking class. It was an absolute SHIT show. It was chaos everywhere, and everybody left having a great time. And I saw the connections, all the things you've been talking about, I got to experience. And so I just share that because, you know, as we look at 2050 comp planning, as we look at budgeting, as we look at all these things, there's going to be a lot of people pushing to do nothing more than what we're already doing now. We need to continue to push for things that are going to enrich our community in the future. A couple updates. As you knew, we were trying, as a MELSA group, lift the requirement of it. Help me out, Jody. MLS degree.
Yes.
Not because we don't value the degree, but because we think that the pool of candidates would be so narrow if that was a restrictor on the MELSA executive director. And so we went for a rules change. That became too cumbersome, so we went actually all the way up to the Senate, and they said we can do a law change. And it was crazy because arguably one of the more liberal people at the Minnesota Senate and one of the more conservative people joined to co-author the bill. And it was so interesting. It's almost universally supported to say, let's try and lift that with a rule change or a law change. And then MDE came in and said, we really value that degree. And so we've had robust discussions, but we've aligned on, we need to have a broader candidate pool of people that are passionate about library and leading library. And so the language got in the omnibus on the Senate side. It's being heard next week on the House side. And in 2 weeks, that could be something that materializes. And it dovetails right up against the executive director of MELSA retiring in the first part of May, which will be outreaching through our third-party group that's handling this to find a very diverse and robust group of folks. We don't just want to talk about it, but we want to do it. So we'll see how that goes. And I think MDE has recognized that we also need to have to intentional upstream and encouraging people to be advocates in the library space that may or may not have degrees. So those are my updates.
Thank you. Jan?
Well, we are going to have a meeting on Thursday
Oh.
of the foundation, so next month we'll have a report. The agenda looks interesting. It's all about fundraising. Jody sent the agenda to me.
And to add on to that, there are now in all the branches available for $3 a piece. The foundation is selling these book totes. So just here's my little plug for the foundation current. And really not so much as a fundraiser for this piece, but really just as promotional efforts to just get the foundations, the awareness of the foundation out into our communities, what the foundation, how they support the library. So pick one up if you'd like. So.
Are they at all the libraries now?
They are, yes. Mhm.
Great. So, we always finish with the publicity, so now I'm thinking with the Chaska Herald and the Chanhassen Villager going away, is there any conversation about what that means for us, or?
So the latest update that I received, and for anyone that isn't aware, we received notification that Southwest Media is ceasing the Chaska Herald, the Chanhassen Villager, and the Jordan Independent newspapers as of April 27th. Those will be the last week of publication. So the county is working on identifying a different official publication at this point, and I haven't received anything beyond that yet. So stay tuned, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does Waconia has their own paper?
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bigger.
Right, so the Patriot now represents 3 communities. In the span of time I've been here, it used to be 3 separate papers in Watertown, Norwood Young America, and Waconia. Then it went to 2, now it's down to 1.
Right, yeah.
This is a trend across the country too,
Oh, yeah.
of the,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mhm.
hopefully a lot of people will stay on social media to get updates and come in the library and know what's going on. But
And
I
that's-
will kind of miss the little tidbits that get in there. So
And for those that have the access and do choose to participate in our social media, our online activity, I mean, we're really seeing good engagement across the board. In terms of all of our MELSA colleagues as well, we're really kind of leading the pack in some of those areas, so that's pretty exciting. So,
Good.
yep.
okay, that's all our agenda, right?
Mhm.
So unless anybody has anything else, I'll just ask for a
thank you.
motion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Adjourn.
Would you like to move?
Oh, I'd like to move to adjourn our meeting.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.